Sam, could you give me, imagine I'm not very bright. I know that's hard to do, but imagine I'm not that bright. Could you give me a description, essentially, of what communism is as a political ideology?
No.
Okay. I've tried to understand it. I've tried to penetrate the idea of Marxism, and it never really seems to sink in very well. Could it be reduced to saying that instead of letting people achieve individually and keep that which they've achieved, you take what has been achieved individually and redistribute it collectively, or is that too simplistic?
No, I think it's way too simplistic, and it's not because you're not bright. It's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Many people make this because people don't go normally. People don't go deep into defunct and defunct ideologies. Communism has very, very little to do with Marxism. Marxism was an urban ideology. Marx said that the revolution will start only after the working class in urban centers, in cities, would reach a certain level of income and control of the means of production, and then there would be a revolution against the capitalist elites. So Marx, in his worst nightmares, would not have imagined that peasants and soldiers would take over.
Right.
He would have considered it a corruption of the Marxist ideal, an idea. So would Engels. So communism has absolutely, very little to do with Marxism. Communism was a rebellion against elites, against the aristocracy, against monarchy, and against certain parts of the intelligentsia, against urban intellectuals, against other ideologies which were then competing with communism, and so on. Technically speaking, I think communism can be best described as feudalism. The communist state was constructed so as to restrict the free movement, free speech, and free thought of people, to tie them into a specific location via a series of affiliations. These affiliations were ostensibly to an abstract entity, which was the Communist Party. But in reality, these affiliations were to specific individuals, which were known as nomenclatura. So communist officials on all levels controlled the lives of mostly agrarian workers and to some extent factory workers. And they controlled their lives to such an extent that these people became virtual slaves. Their production was utterly confiscated by the nomenclatura and redistributed amongst them. The nomenclatura, the party officials, did not live like the factory workers and the peasants.
Yeah.
I mean, they had caviar and they had Western goods and they had access to rock and roll and they were traveling. They had a special kind of passport which allowed them to travel. People inside the communist system in most communist countries needed an internal passport to travel. They could not leave their homes. It's still the case in big parts of China today, for example. It is the case in North Korea. So it was a feudal system. Don't forget that when the communist revolution started, industry in Russia amounted to more or less 5 to 10% of GDP, we're not quite sure. And agriculture amounted to 50 to 60% of GDP. At the agricultural sector in most post-communist countries was inordinately developed. And communism was therefore an agrarian revolution. It was a revolution against modern trends. It was a reactionary, the irony is that it was a reactionary movement. It was back to the Middle Ages. And it was done, I mean, the Marxist ideology was leveraged, but also utterly corrupted.
So there's nothing intrinsically violent in Marxist ideology at all?
Marxism is about the transfer of power from owners of means of production to the users of means of production. In other words, from factory owners, shareholders, the rich, to people who actually use the means of production, use machinery, use devices, use agricultural inputs. This transfer of power, if you read the Marxist texts, can be violent, because, for example, they analyze the 1848 revolutions and so on favorably. They think that revolution is a very good idea, even if it's violent, so it can be violent. But Marx actually, personally, did not think it would be violent. He thought the transition would be natural.
Right.
Marxism pretended to be a science.
Right.
It was scientified. In other words, Marx thought that he had discovered scientific, immutable, unchangeable laws which govern human production and the human power matrix which was dependent on production.
Right.
That's what he thought he had discovered. Communism was when people who were undereducated, who were abused and exploited for a millennium, who were primitive in many respects, and so on and so forth, were put to use by a tiny elite of intellectuals in order to upset the existing order and to redistribute wealth, not to the proletariat or but to themselves.
Right. You're saying that Marx thought that he discovered something that was scientific. When I tried to penetrate Marx, it read to me like elements of things that I'd read in science fiction novels, because there was a naivety and idealism, and there seemed to be something missing. Where I was reading it, I was thinking you'd really need artificial intelligence to oversee this, because it sounds like he's trying to make things fair. He's trying to go for justice, but without something to oversee it, it read to me like it would inevitably devolve into violence, because you're taking possessions from people and putting them elsewhere, which creates resentment. If he wasn't the founder per se of communism, who would you say was?
Lenin.
Lenin
was a German agent to start with, but Lenin created a breed of ideology that the only thing Lenin kept of Marx was the ostensible redistribution of wealth from the former elites to a new elite. And the new elite was the proletariat.
Yeah.
That was a new elite, supposedly. Workers were celebrated. There was a guy called Stakhanov, and Stakhanov, over-fulfilled his quota. So there was a movement called Stakhanovites. So workers were celebrated. Productive workers were gods. Agricultural workers in mineral and extraction industries, they were idols of the youth and idols of the population, and so on and so forth. But of course, it was all for purposes of manipulation. There was a tiny group of party officials and so on and so forth who took over most of this wealth. Now, the thing that the West and especially the United States refused to acknowledge is that an absolutely identical process has happened in the West. And the distinctions made between communism, fascism, and Anglo-Saxon jungle variety Darwinist capitalism, these distinctions are utterly artificial.
Okay.
In all these cases, there was a takeover, a hostile takeover by the elite. Income inequality has increased in all these cases. A tiny group of people amassed and amalgamated the vast majority of wealth in all these cases. And in all these cases, there was a narrative of upward social mobility for the underprivileged and disenfranchised.
Right.
The Americans call it the American dream.
Yeah.
The communists called it Marxism.
Right.
But it's absolutely the same thing. It's a pipe dream sold to the masses.
And are you saying that fascism was the same? It was about uplifting the workers?
Fascism was a bit different in the sense that fascism had an intermediary. Communism also adopted the same system. The idea was that it's impossible to have a direct democracy or direct control, like in Athens. And it's also not advisable to have participatory democracy because the people are not on that level, not educated enough. So in the meantime, the party and its organ, the state, would mediate between the new upcoming elite, the new socially mobile upcoming elite, and the cumulative wealth.
Right.
The party and its organ, the state, would decide on allocation of resources, on education, on services like healthcare, and so on and so forth. So fascism, for example, what they did, they nationalized industries. All industry was etatist. In other words, all industry was owned by the state. Same happened in communism, effectively. There was, of course, no private ownership, and there was no party ownership, so everything was owned by the state. So the state and the party became intermediaries. But if you think it's different in the United States, you're dead wrong. It's exactly what's happening in the United States.
Right.
In the United States, politicians and their organ, the state, are the intermediaries between the hoi polloi, the common people, and the wealth. And mysteriously, all the wealth ends up with the very people who claim to be intermediaries.
Right.
Exactly as it happened in Russia.
Right.
And ultimately exactly as it happened in Nazi Germany, for example.
So that helps me to understand a lot, actually. So is communism, is written into the source code of communism, a total corruption of Marxism, and is it always therefore false? It's a false narrative of...
Communism was an attempt to reverse trends which started in the 13th and 14th century, according to Brodel at least, to reverse trends of urbanization, of private property. In other words, it was an attempt to reverse capitalism. The problem was that at the time that communism took over, which was the early 20th century, we had only two models. We had capitalism, and preceding it, we had feudalism. We did not have any third model. So all these revolutionary movements, fascism, Nazism, communism, they were revolutionary, they were movements of permanent revolution. They were permanent civil wars. Communism was a permanent civil war. For 70 years, communism was fighting an internal battle against the enemies of the proletariat, the enemies of the state, class enemies, etc., etc. First in Russia, and then all over Europe, and then all over the world. Same with fascism. Same with Nazism. They were enemy-driven. They were anti-other driven. So these were permanent revolutions which tried to foster permanent civil wars. But all these, they had to adopt some model. And they were faced with only two models. One was capitalism, and one was feudalism. We had no other model. So they opted for feudalism. What happened, and this is what people, I think, don't understand at all. What happened in the past 50 years is that capitalism died, absconded, and we reverted to feudalism. In other words, humanity as a whole, for the last 10,000 years, was faced with these two options, capitalism or feudalism. If you look at the history of ancient Egypt, if you look at the history of the Ionian states, Athens, and so on, if you look at the history of the Jewish people, if you look at the history, wherever you look, there were alternating waves of capitalism and then feudalism and then capitalism and then feudalism. Capitalism was closely aligned with urbanization and the rise of urban centers, and feudalism was more associated with agriculture. It is the first time in human history that we can impose feudalism on cities. And the reason we can do that is because we have technology. Technology changed the equation. Consequently, what has happened is that we have been reverting over the last 50 years from capitalism to feudalism. And now let's try to understand what is feudalism. Why am I saying this? I mean, first of all, it sounds completely counterintuitive and
it does,
bordering on insane. But I'm insane, it's well known. I mean, it's documented and everything. So what did you expect? I mean, let's finish this interview. So, but I'm saying this judiciously. What are the characteristics of feudalism? The first characteristic of feudalism is enormous income inequality. In feudal states, the feudal lords, starting with gentry and then nobility and then the king himself, the feudal lords held personally, well over 85% of the land and well over 90 to 95%, depending on the period, of wealth.
Yeah.
We have a situation today in the West where this is being replicated.
Right.
I am saying this, and Piketty almost says this. Piketty went back only up to the French Revolution. He didn't go before. Had he gone before, he would have discovered that the French Revolution was the culmination of a state of things which lasted 600-700 years.
Right.
So the first hallmark of feudalism is enormous wealth concentration in the hands of the few.
Right.
And we have this now.
Yeah.
I don't think people know the figures. I don't think people realize that the 100 richest people in the United States have as much wealth as 3.9 billion people in the world. I don't think they realized it.
I would be very surprised if they did. And we had this conversation yesterday. Did you say that that's 3.9 billion represents half the Earth's population?
A bit over half the Earth's population.
So 100
People.
humans, 100 single humans have
Yes.
that much wealth.
The 10 richest Americans have more money than all the black and Hispanic population combined plus 5 million whites. For you to understand, there has never been such wealth concentration
Yeah.
in human history, with one exception:
Yeah.
feudalism.
Right. So you'd have to go back to medieval England.
Yes, you have to go back to the 12th, 13th century.
Right.
And the reason feudalism's back was broken was the Black Death. When the Black Death happened, 50 to 60% of the population died. And then what happened? There was a shortage of workers. The power matrix changed. Suddenly peasants and workers had bargaining power. There were few of them.
Because they became necessary.
They became a scarce commodity.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, half of them died. So there were very few of them. And we see, for example, a tripling of wages in Europe in the 15th century.
For people who were cobblers, stonemasons, whatever you want.
Farmers, I mean, you name it.
Yeah.
The elites became dependent on workforce rather than the other way around.
Yes.
And that broke the backbone of feudalism. It is then that capitalism started. There was a redistribution of wealth from the nobility and so on to workers and peasants. And then gradually capitalism started. We are seeing the Hanseatic League, which was a league of 13 cities in the Baltic states and in Germany, which were highly capitalistic. We see the rise of capitalistic states in Italy. We see gradually 16th century, 17th century, capitalism, proto-capitalism as we know it today. So capitalism was the outcome of the world's biggest catastrophe ever, an epidemic that killed half the population. Had this not happened, we would still be in feudal society. And the reason we would still be in feudal society is because it's a very efficient system. Feudalism is an extremely efficient system. We can come to it later. Anyhow, the first hallmark is income inequality, and we have that. The second hallmark is a total lack of social mobility. And as opposed to all the fairy tales we are being told, social mobility is dead, especially in the United States, which claims that there's American dream and you can...
Freedom and independence.
Social mobility had died completely in the United States and is dying all throughout the West. And of course it's completely dead in countries like India and so on. So the disappearance of social mobility, upward mobility of course. Third sign of feudalism is absence of inflation. During the feudal times, because the means of production were totally monopolized and prices were set by an elite, inflation vanished. There was no inflation. Prices were stable for well over 400 years. What it cost to buy a bushel of wheat in the 13th century was exactly the same in the 16th century. So inflation, the disappearance of inflation, stagnation of wages consequently. We are seeing that too. So, and retracement of globalization. Globalization came in waves. The globalization was at its maximum at the beginning of the 20th century. Much more than today, by the way.
Really?
Really. At its maximum, by any measure. Foreign direct investment, for example, as percentage of GDP was much higher. Trade as percentage of global GDP was much higher. International trade was much higher. And human mobility was much higher. So globalization was workforce mobility. Globalization was at its apex the 20th century, beginning of 20th century.
So
before the First World War.
Before the First World War.
Yes.
So the American dream was realized before the First World War, and then has been slowly dying ever since then.
I would say that since the 1950s, after the Second World War, there were two shocks.
Yeah.
And then started the process of reverting from capitalism to feudalism. And I think we are completing this process today with Donald Trump. What we are doing now, we are shutting down globalization with trade sanctions, with restrictions on immigration, with restriction on cultural exchanges. So, for example, 40% of the internet is no longer global. It's behind firewalls in Russia, in China, in Saudi Arabia, and so on.
I didn't know that.
You are not seeing the global internet. You are seeing Russian internet, Chinese internet, Saudi internet, and so on. So about 40% of the internet is no longer global. International trade has stagnated because of the recent trade spats. Worker mobility is beginning to stagnate. Brexit.
Yeah.
Immigration is declining. Refugees and asylum seekers aside, immigration has collapsed completely. Economic migration. So globalization is being reversed. Income inequality increased. Inflation is dead. Wages are stagnant. That happens to be the Middle Ages. Exactly. And we have gone back to feudalism. Communism was an attempt to institute feudalism in the face of capitalism. In other words, to fight capitalism, they had only one other model to adopt, and they did. And that was feudalism.
Right.
And all the elements I'm just mentioning were prevalent in Russia. Income inequality, no inflation, wages were fixed, social upward mobility was non-existent, and mobility per se, physical mobility, were non-existent.
Yeah.
Which is what's happening today with globalization. If you look at the Earth as one unit, mobility is vastly decreased. Because today, if you want to emigrate to the Netherlands, it's a hell of a lot more difficult than 10 years ago. If you want to emigrate to the United States, it's much more difficult. The quotas have been reduced by 40%. If you want to emigrate to India even. I mean, countries are closing down completely. So global mobility is decreasing. What will happen? In 50 years' time, we will have utter and total feudalism. In the sense that there will be a tiny, tiny, tiny elite. When I say tiny, I don't mean 10 million people. I mean 10 people. We will have a tiny elite equal to monarchs.
Yeah.
We will have dynasties,
because
the wealth is inherited and passed on from generation to generation.
Yes.
We will have dynasties. People will not be able to move freely except within their own country. So freedom of movement will be restricted. Income inequality, of course, will be maximal. There will be no inflation and and consequently no wage increases, but also no social unrest, because social unrest is generated by a decrease in purchasing power. And if there's no inflation, there's no decrease in purchasing power.
Right.
Social upward mobility will be curtailed, but people will be content with their place in society.
Right.
And so we will have gone back to the 12th century. As simple as that.
Yesterday we were talking about money and how money flows or doesn't flow in a system. And you were saying that for very wealthy people, there's a tendency for money to stick and just end up in somebody's bank account and just sit there. Is it through that process that you think we would end up with just having 10 people owning all the wealth in the world?
Well, already if you look at the 10,000 richest people, they own about 90% of the world's wealth. I mean, can you digest this?
No, not really.
The world has 7.4 billion people.
Yeah.
The 10,000 richest own 93% of the world's wealth already.
Yeah.
So I don't think
we're well on the way to this the feudalism you're talking
it's
about.
It's the end of the story.
We're there. Yeah.
And what's happening is something that no economist, to the best of my knowledge, ever described. To the best of my knowledge, I'm very well acquainted with the literature. Bizarrely, no one has described it.
Right.
What happens is this. Above a certain level of wealth, money is taken out of the system.
Yes.
If you have $10 million, you can spend them, especially you. If you have $100 million, I can spend them. It's correlated with IQ. If you have...
So we were discussing...
So I wanted to add two features which make me think that we are reverting from capitalism to feudalism.
Yeah.
One is personal affiliation or personal loyalty, known as personality cults. So from Stalin to Donald Trump. But there is a personalization of politics. This has not been the case between, let's say, the 17th century and the 19th century, which are these centuries of pure, unadulterated capitalism. There was no personality cult. There were institutions, there was collective leadership, there were prominent people, there were intellectuals, there were well-respected people, there were venerable people, there were elders, everything, yes, but there was no personality cult. Personality cults developed during the Middle Ages in Europe and elsewhere because of the feudal system. Your livelihood and very often your life and the life of your nearest and dearest depended critically on a single individual. Your nobleman. Your nobleman recruited you to fight in a war. Your nobleman paid you your salary, if you were paid. Your nobleman gave you a share of the crop. It was your nobleman who made life and death decisions for you. Normally, as a form of cognitive dissonance, you tended to idealize your nobleman. You tended to say, my nobleman is the best, he's the greatest. We have the knights, kind of subculture.
Yes.
The knights, you know, they were these idealized, romanticized figures.
They're heroes.
Heroes and so on. So we have a personality cult was very, very common. Actually, it was an organizing principle of society during the height of the feudal Middle Ages. It came back only in the 20th century. It came back when capitalism started to suffer, disintegrate, and to be attacked by a variety of ideologies, competing ideologies like communism, and of course like Nazism and fascism. So when capitalism came under attack, personality cults re-emerged. And you had personality cults everywhere, from China, Mao, Russia, Stalin, and even to some extent Churchill in the United Kingdom during the war.
I was going to mention Churchill, yeah.
And Roosevelt in the United States. And then, of course, today we have Donald Trump. And before him, Obama. These are all personality cults.
Yes.
So this would indicate to me that we are no longer in a pure capitalistic system. That's one thing. Second thing is, as I said, capitalism and feudalism were two organizing principles, two systems, not only systems of organization or hierarchy or administration or institutional systems, but also systems of thought.
Yes.
Systems incorporating beliefs about the world, systems incorporating all kinds of principles of conduct, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So people always had to choose between capitalism and feudalism. And when you chose feudalism, you chose the supremacy of politics over economics. And when you chose capitalism, you chose the supremacy of economics over politics.
Right.
Now, if you look at communism, the irony is that communism presented itself as an economic movement, a movement concerned with economics, allocation of resources, redistribution of wealth, social justice, and so on. But actually, of course, communism had nothing to do with economics. Communism was a purely and utterly political movement. It was concerned 99% of the time with politics. All economic organs, all economic institutions, all economic activities were subjected to political decision-making, political priorities, and political beliefs. Politics was supreme. No wonder the party was superior to the state,
Right.
not the other way.
Yeah.
Communism was a political movement. We are seeing the same thing emerging in the United States, hence the polarization of American politics.
Yeah.
We are seeing a situation in the United States where politics is put above economics.
Yes.
albeit in an economic disguise.
Yes.
Even in feudalism, no one said politics is more important than economics. People said, well, we need to organize ourselves in this political way to maximize production, to make sure we don't have droughts and we don't have famine. So that's why we are organizing ourselves. But feudalism was an utterly political system with very little regard for economics.
Yeah.
Therefore, there was no technological innovation, no increased efficiency of production, no industry, no manufacturing, nothing. It all stagnated for 400 years because economics did not matter. It was all about politics. Same thing is happening in the United States today with Donald Trump and before, I would say. A reversion to politics as a supreme goal and value. You asked me yesterday, why is there no social unrest? There is no social unrest because politics doesn't matter anymore. Economics doesn't matter anymore.
Right.
People today are willing to make economic sacrifices in order to uphold and buttress political goals. I think the supreme example is Brexit. Supreme example is Brexit. Brexit was economically an insane decision.
Yeah.
But politics reigned supreme.
Yes.
Donald Trump was an economically insane decision.
Yes.
Because all Donald Trump's policies are anti-poor.
Yeah.
If you shut off trade with China, the poor suffer, not the rich.
Yeah.
If you decrease capital gains tax, the rich benefit, not the poor, etc., etc. I mean, Donald Trump is a rich man's advocate and representative in government. Yet he was elected by poor people.
Yeah.
Why? Why? Because they no longer care about economic issues. They care about politics.
Yeah.
There is, and don't pay attention to what all the mainstream media are telling you.
Yeah.
They're telling you that people are concerned about economic issues. They are furious that the wages are stagnant. Where are these furious people?
Yeah.
Why did union membership collapse by 60% in the past decade? I mean, where are these?
Yeah.
Where are the demonstrations? Where are the strikes? Where are the people are no longer interested in economy? They're interested in politics. That's a major indicator of a feudal system.
So it's a lot for me to take on. I'm trying to sort of think from a psychology point of view. Does that mean that the tendency of the people in a system where politics is ruling over economics, that they kind of give up their own personal agency and give it over to the cult of personality of the Führer, the Messiah?
A feudal system.
Right.
In the feudal system, the Lord controlled economic decision-making, economic allocation of resources, and the resulting production, on the one hand. But he also made decisions about, for example, whether to go to war, whether to join the king in going to war. He had his own army and militia. And the affiliation was to him.
Yes.
The feudal, the vassal, the feudal peasant, swore allegiance to his lord, not to the king.
Yeah.
But to his lord, and his lord swore allegiance to his lord, and his lord swore allegiance to the king.
And so on, yeah.
It was a system of upward mobile allegiance, if you wish.
Yes.
A Führerprinzip.
Yeah.
In Nazi Germany, no one swore allegiance only to Adolf Hitler, but there was a Führerprinzip. There were Führers in various levels, Gauleiters and so on. So the Nazi system was utterly feudal. Same with communism. In communism, you were allegiant to the Communist Party boss in Stavropol or in Moscow. And he was allegiant to Stalin. So it was also a feudal system. When people decide, and it's a fascinating question why people switch from capitalism to feudalism. And from now on, I don't want to talk about communism or Nazism or even modern capitalism, because they are all feudal systems.
Right.
I want to talk about feudalism.
Yeah.
And I think it's a fascinating question why people at some point in history decide, well, the hell with capitalism, we are going back to feudalism.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating question. And because these cycles happen innumerable times in history, we already have a body of experience, a body of research on why this happens. And we are in the throes of such a wave of reverting to feudalism. And it's fascinating to behold.
The implication of what you're saying is you think that having economics over politics is more rational and that it actually empowers people the individual more. Is that fair?
Yes, capitalism goes hand in hand with individualism and liberalism.
Okay.
Feudalism goes hand in hand with authoritarianism and with more or less stagnation.
So it creates a different dichotomy and a totally different way of thinking about the political and economic situation we face now, because usually it's left and right. But what you're saying is...
No.
It's not at all.
Absolutely no. A long time ago, the concept of transcendent left was invented. Transcendent left is an amalgam of left and so-called left, so-called right ideologies. It's not about left and right. There is no left and right. I mean, left and right is a piece of fiction invented essentially by the media. There is no left and right, because right-wing movements like Nazism were absolutely socialist movements. I mean, they had extremely strong social agenda elements. And
modern socialists will jump up and down at that. They'll say it absolutely wasn't socialist, that
Excuse
he
me.
only pretended to be socialist to get votes.
No, it was absolutely a socialist movement. Upward social mobility in Nazism was much bigger than in the United States.
Right.
To start with.
Yeah.
Distribution of wealth was pretty big. Income inequality was much lower than in the United States today, etc., etc. The social...
In pre-Nazi Germany, it was
in Nazi
lower.
Germany.
In Nazi Germany,
Yes.
it was lower.
In Nazi Germany. Nazi Germany became a feudal system a bit later, when a hierarchy, Führerprinzip, was established, and so on and so forth. But it had very powerful social agenda elements which would not go amiss in Sweden. Or in, and these elements were enforced and implemented almost to the full extent. Once they were enforced and implemented, Nazism became a feudal system. It froze in time, froze in place, institutions were frozen, allegiance flowed upwards to the Führer, and everyone knew its place, and everything, was sort of snapshotted. If you
so its initial phases, it was socialist, and then it froze.
Initially, it was revolutionary.
Yeah.
All transitions from capitalism to feudalism have a revolutionary phase.
Yeah.
Then the revolutionary phase, having redistributed, re-established, reorganized society, freezes and becomes a feudal system.
Right.
That's the process. That's what happened with Nazism. Nazism was simply an accelerated form of such transition because of technology.
Right.
Hitler was very technologically oriented. He was a hip guy. He was an early adopter, as we call it today, of everything, by the way. Television, radio. Really? First television broadcast was in Nazi Germany from the Olympics in 1936.
Right.
Hitler was the first leader to use an airplane.
Right.
To go from rally to rally.
Right.
He was the first leader to use microphones and megaphones and so on. So he was very technologically advanced, the most technologically advanced leader in Europe at the time.
Yeah.
It was technology that hastened the process and accelerated. So the Nazi revolution, which later ossified into feudalism, took about 20 years, 12 in power.
Yeah.
Communism took longer.
Yeah.
Communism took longer. First of all, the territory was much bigger, and the percentage of urban dwellers, city dwellers, was much lower in the USSR.
Right.
Most people were peasants and uneducated and so on. So it took a bit longer, but not much longer. The revolutionary phase in USSR lasted about 20 years, and with Stalin started the feudal phase.
Right.
So in the United States, there is a very fascinating phenomenon. Capitalism reigned supreme in the United States until the Second World War. It was Roosevelt who introduced extremely strong socialist elements. And this process culminated with Lyndon B. Johnson. And then in 1965, America became a socialist country, utterly indistinguishable from, for example, from Sweden. Only they didn't dare to say it. They didn't dare to call a spade a socialist spade. So, but it was a socialist country. To this very day, they have Medicaid, Medicare, social welfare. I mean, you name it. Paid vacation, maternity. I mean, it's a socialist country.
Why do you think they're so neurotically terrified of the word socialist? I mean, it's still to this day a filthy word in America.
Much less so. I mean, Bernie Sanders was a socialist, and he won like millions of votes. Much, much less so, I would say. And a socialist, an avowed socialist, just won by-elections to Congress.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I think socialism is less decried than it used to be. Communism, no, but socialism, yes. And rightly so.
Yeah.
Socialism is an agenda of redistribution of wealth and taking care of some basic human needs.
Yeah.
It's a human rights agenda.
Yes.
Communism is not.
Yeah.
Communism is a institutional reorganization in society to transit society from capitalism to feudalism.
Yeah.
Americans understood the danger of communism, rightly so. I mean, as usual, they're Americans, so they became paranoid and hysterical and what have you. They panicked. But their understanding of the core danger of peril of communism was correct.
Right.
Communism is absolutely an alternative system to capitalism.
Right.
It's a form of feudalism.
Right.
Americans were terrified of becoming vassals.
Yeah.
But it happened. And now they are. They live in a society which resembles 1940 USSR much more than it resembles 1840 America. America today is much closer organizationally, economically, and so on, to 1940s Stalinesque USSR than it is to 1890 America.
Which was open, there was opportunity.
Robber barons, unlimited initiative, malignant narcissism, bigger than life capitalists, and so on and so forth.
So I think I've actually heard Slavoj Žižek say something similar to that, which is that people there think that they have freedom, but as Žižek would say, the freedom to do what? You're actually being told at every turn exactly what to do, and it's a very a submissive relationship that's enforced, but under the guise of freedom and openness and independence. So you'd stand by that today 2018 America looks more like 1940s USSR than 1840s America.
Absolutely much more. There's a personality cult, there is extreme income inequality, there is lack of social upward mobility, there is lack of mobility, there is, everything is frozen and stagnant, wages, inflation, economically, education, healthcare, non-economically. I mean, it's utterly USSR in 1940. And the reason people transition to capitalism, to feudalism, from capitalism, is that capitalism is an it's a non-sustainable system. It's a unstable system. It's a system that cannot survive for long. We call it punctuated equilibrium in biology. It's a system that has its own self-destruction built into it. It has embedded self-destruction. And the reason this is because either you have unbridled capitalism or you end up in feudalism. The problem with capitalism is that it has never developed, never ever developed, failed to develop mechanisms to cope with the needs of the collective. Capitalism copes well with the needs, aspirations, priorities of some individuals, but is an utter failure when it comes to the needs, aspirations, and agenda of any collective, is utter failure in catering to the needs of the less adapted to capitalism. For example, people who cannot be entrepreneurs, workers, the workforce. And above all, and most importantly, is an utter failure in the sense that it has no equivalent state ideology.
Right.
If we look, for example, at religions like Islam, Islam is a religion, but it's also a state ideology. If you look at Christianity until the 15th century, it was a religion, but it also had a state ideology. If you look at communism, it was a form of secular religion, feudal form of organization, and it had a state ideology. When you have an organizing principle, an institutional system, without a state ideology, it degenerates into anarchy.
Right.
It scares people,
Yeah.
and they revert to feudalism.
I was going to ask you about, because before you said we end up sort of implicitly choosing feudalism, and I was going to ask, is that because of chaos? Does it send us
Yes.
back? We go into an infantile state, we're traumatized, we want daddy,
Absolutely.
we want daddy to fix it all.
Then we become religious or communist.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
So then, when you have feudalism as an organizing principle of society, psychologically, do people become more religious?
Most feudal systems go with religious sentiment.
Right.
It doesn't have to be God-related sentiment. For example,
Right.
there's no question that Nazism was a religion.
Yes.
Absolutely, secular religion.
Yes.
It had rites, ceremonies,
Yeah.
a God figure. I
Yeah.
mean, was utterly. So, yes,
And it was deliberately constructed as that,
it's
wasn't
constructed as a religion.
it? By
Absolutely.
people who wore robes and they were into cults.
It absolutely was constructed as a
Yeah.
religion,
Yeah.
and a secular religion,
Yeah.
but a religion all the same.
Yeah.
By the way, not so secular, because, for example, Nazism believed in some kind of undefined force of history,
Yes.
kind of supreme force that rules history. So there was something transcendental.
Yeah.
There was something supernatural
Yes.
in Nazism,
Yeah.
which is why they ended up with occult and
Yeah.
all kinds of things. Similarly, in communism, there was the Marxist principle of the immutable, inevitable, ineluctable transition from industrial, urban capitalism to
Yeah.
proletariat ownership of means of production. So there was like this scientific principle, which was non-human scientific
Yeah.
principle, like
Yeah.
a law of nature. So all these systems have something transcendent, something that is not human
Yes.
and above the system and cannot be argued with.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
It's another definition of God.
Yes.
So, yes, feudalism goes always with an increase in religious sentiment, radicalization of religion, and adoption of religious elements as a state system. Now, where religion is still prevalent, classical religion, for example, in Muslim countries, what happens is religion takes over because it has an answer. Religion is absolutely a feudal alternative.
Okay.
So religion takes over because it has both answers embedded. It has feudalism as an organizing principle, and it has a state system. So people say, okay, we have it. It's ready-made. It's like fast food. You know, it's there. Let's not tamper with it, tinker with it.
It works.
It works. So I've been a capitalist until 1989. I saw that it leads to anarchy, disintegration of family,
Yes.
anomic values. I mean, the whole thing is falling apart.
Yeah.
I mean, the hell with capitalism. I'm going back to feudalism. Now, let me look around. Islam. Yeah, I'm going to be a Muslim.
Right.
Suddenly, there's a rise in Muslim fundamentalism.
Yes.
And then militancy. Because the capitalism is frightening. Capitalism is much less human ideology than, for example, Nazism. Much less. Yeah.
Capitalism is a much less human ideology than Nazism.
Yes, I didn't say inhuman. I said much less human.
Yes.
Because capitalism is concerned with an abstract entity, which is the market.
Yes.
It even says so. It says the invisible hand of the market.
That's right.
It sounds like a horror movie.
It does.
I'm an invisible hand of the market. You know. So capitalism it deals with exclusively with abstract entities which somehow regulate and control your life, somehow dictate to you your future and the future of your children, somehow decide where you're going to live and how you're going to live. Somehow, if you think about it for a minute, it has no human face.
Oh, it's alien.
Yes, it's alien.
It's worse than alien. You can't reason with it.
It's machine-like in a way.
Yes.
It's very machine-like.
Yeah.
And here we come to the concept of uncanny valley. It's not human in the sense that there is some mechanism that was started in time immemorial and inexorably grinds, and you're the grist to the mill. You're like cannon fodder,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah.
in this endless. And of course, Charlie Chaplin captured that wonderfully in his movie Modern Times, where the worker is a kind of a utterly robotic unit of production.
Yeah.
So capitalism always deteriorates into a non-human form, always. When I said that capitalism is less human than Nazism, Nazism was evil, but evil is human.
I just think in and of itself, it's a great statement. I want it on a t-shirt.
Nazism took absolutely identifiable human elements,
Yes,
exaggerated them,
yes,
and amalgamated them or conflated them with feudalism to create a system in which we today call evil. But it's recognizably human.
it has a human face and
It's a human face.
It's warm-blooded, even though it's evil.
That's why we have this capitalism with a human face.
Right.
We don't have, for example, Nazism with a human face, and we never had communism with a human. This is capitalism with a human face.
Yeah.
We feel the need as intellectuals to put a human face to capitalism.
Yes, yeah,
There were no intellectuals who said, "Well, wait a minute. Let's see if Nazism is a." I mean, it's clear that Nazism has a human face. It has a horrible human face.
Yes.
It has Hitler's human face.
yes,
But it's a human face.
yes, yeah,
It's not so capitalism.
okay,
Capitalism is this kind of mad scientist machine that sort of devours you and spits out your carcass after it had used all your resources.
yes,
It optimizes. Human systems with a human face, never optimize. They are flawed. They make mistakes. They get it wrong. They misallocate resources. They steal. I mean, in human systems, people steal.
yeah,
There's corruption.
yes,
I regard the fight against corruption as a fight to make us less human. Of course, economically, it's
yeah,
justified by any number of mathematical models that
Yes.
you. But come on, it's less human not to be corrupt.
that's right.
In other words, we are being pushed by the liberal capitalist ideology, which is reified by the International Monetary Fund, for example, to be less and less human. The example, the manifestation of such an attitude is the Greek economic crisis,
Yeah,
where people were utterly and totally sacrificed. I mean, people were starving, people were dying, babies were dying. Everyone, I mean, all for the sake of maintaining the capitalist ideals of balanced budget,
yeah,
of efficiency in production,
Yeah.
of non-corruption.
Yeah.
And they are all worthy ideals. They are just not human.
yes,
They're all worthy, they're not human. And so when people get face to face with this inhuman contraption called capitalism, they recoil, exactly like being faced with a monster.
Yeah.
They recoil, and they, exactly as you said, they develop infantile defenses.
Yeah.
Daddy, help me.
yeah,
Personality cult. I prefer to be safe than to be rich. Lack of social mobility.
That seems to be the current predominant sentiment. I would rather be safe than
Yes.
be wealthy. I'd rather be safe than be independent, upwardly mobile. It's too much
Yes.
responsibility.
This is what I said before, that capitalism is inbuilt instability that renders it unsustainable. Capitalism always leads to crisis. That's today a totally accepted maxim. Capitalism must have periods of crisis to cleanse itself. Which is a religious kind of word, but it's kind of a cleansing ritual, cathartic ritual. Unfortunately, in this cathartic ritual, people jump off windows,
Yeah.
very high windows.
Yeah.
They commit suicide and so on. So there's a human price to that.
Yeah,
When people come face to face with this type of capitalism, they recoil. And they say, I prefer anything to this. Anything. I prefer to be poor. I prefer to be... I want to transfer responsibility to some person,
yeah,
Donald Trump, Adolf Hitler, Joseph Stalin, Mao, whoever.
Yeah.
I want to transfer responsibility to that person, and I want to sleep well at night.
yes,
And so the emphasis in feudal system is on lack of mobility, knowing your place,
yes,
safety and security,
yes,
and lack of personal responsibility. In other words, lack of individualism. And the emphasis on capitalism is on individualism, initiative, ambition, and so on. The thing is that capitalism I'm saying it's not human because the overwhelming majority of humans are not like that.
Yeah.
They do not have ambition.
Yeah.
They don't know how to run a business. They're not entrepreneurial.
Yeah.
They are not built for capitalism.
Yes.
So capitalism ends up creating enormous income inequality and anarchy.
And anarchy. I can see it even in myself. I am quite entrepreneurial, but I've realized there's a constant anxiety, even if you're successful, however you measure success relatively, but relatively successful as an entrepreneur, there's always the anxiety that you could be doing more, which if you had that taken away from you in some state where you were told, this is your job, this is your role, Comrade Grannon, go to work, go home, that's it, I wouldn't have that anxiety that I wasn't doing something. I don't know, there is no opportunity cost because I have no choice. There's a gun to my head, which sounds awful, but that one thing, that anxiety would dissipate completely. That one area of my life, there'd be no anxiety there. So do you think at the collective level, at an unconscious collective level, perhaps that anxiety has reached the point where we just say, we don't want this anymore. We're ready to go back into submission.
Yes. Yeah. I think depression levels, anxiety levels, mental illness in general have reached a breaking point, a critical mass. And what we have decided, unconsciously if you wish, is that the reason we are feeling bad, the reason we are anxious and mentally sick and depressed, and even the reason our families are disintegrating, and even the reason we can't, all the bad and the ills of society we now attribute to the way we have organized society.
Yes.
We say, well, let's organize it differently.
Yeah.
And then when we come to that crux, when that fork in the road, and we say, okay, this way of organizing society failed, let's self-medicate by organizing it differently.
Yeah.
The only other fork is feudalism.
Yes.
Humanity invented only two ways of organizing itself, the means of production, economic activity, human interpersonal relationships, behavioral modes, and so on. One is capitalism, one is feudalism, period. Feudalism has many forms, capitalism has many forms. But these are the only two forks in the road. Capitalism is geared to a highly specific psychological profile, which is rare. Feudalism caters to everyone. Feudalism fits everyone. Capitalism doesn't. Therefore, capitalism can never ever be stable. It's an unstable system. It's chaotic, it's unstable, and no wonder it goes through crisis up and down and so on. It's a bipolar system.
Yes.
In a way.
Yeah.
It's a bipolar system. Who wants to live constantly in a bipolar disorder?
Yes. You're constantly emotionally dysregulated. It's like an abusive
It's
relationship.
absolutely bipolar. I mean, if you take the definition from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, that's capitalism.
Yeah. Yeah.
Feudalism is more like dysthymia, a kind of monotonous, depressed state. But at least it's monotonous, predictable, safe, secure, and to the vast majority of people, comfortable. Comfort zone. That's the comfort zone. And it's also, feudal systems are family-like.
Yeah.
Capitalist systems are not, but feudal systems are family-like. You have father, Donald Trump, Adolf Hitler, whoever. You have father, then you have, family, then you have, so it's community-oriented and family-oriented. From the most ancient times, the basic organizational social units were family and community. It was capitalism that challenged that. Capitalism told you, listen, family sucks because it hampers your mobility.
Yes.
It hampers your mobility and it's a burden on you. It's a misallocation of resources. If, for example, if you're child-free, you can flourish. So the implicit message in capitalism is that family and community are inefficient modes of allocating resources and therefore an anathema. It's a heresy. Capitalism encourages social units to disintegrate because it's malignantly individualistic.
I have had that personally. I've had that thought run through my mind many times where I could have a family, I could have kids, and then the immediate thought comes, well, I would work less. I wouldn't be able to make as much money. I wouldn't be able to push the business as far forward, and it's capitalist corruption.
Of course, now we come to the confluence of capitalism and narcissism.
Yes.
Because capitalism encourages narcissism. It's a core value of capitalism in a variety of ways. So But narcissism is malignantly individualistic in the sense that narcissism utterly obstructs any kind of interpersonal interaction.
Yes.
Could be romantic interaction, could be family, could be workplace, your bad team worker, and so on. So capitalism at its culmination, at its inevitable development, leads to the utter ruination of all social units. Social units are the enemies of capitalism, and capitalism is enemy of anything but the individual.
Yes.
Of course, we didn't discuss the role of technology. So what people see in capitalism is not only the issue of insecurity, economic. They see in capitalism a threat to their social being and social welfare. They see a threat to the family, they see a threat to community, and so on and so forth. And they recoil, simply recoil.
Yeah. One of the loops that we didn't close before was the issue of sticky money. Money just ending up in the hands of the ultra wealthy.
Of course, capitalism leads because it is geared, because it is optimized to the needs and profile of a highly specific group of people. Only Donald Trump style people and Warren Buffett on the other spectrum. But only this kind of people will flourish and thrive in capitalism at the expense of all others.
Yeah.
Because ultimately we live in an environment of scarcity. Scarcity is dictated by the fact that our Earth is finite, finite. Our Earth is limited. I mean, it's finite. And because it's finite, there is somewhere a point of scarcity. So it's a zero-sum game. If Trump gets richer and Warren Buffett gets richer, you get poorer. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
It's a finite game.
Yeah.
And if you decide to cheat in the game by printing money, you end up with inflation, which again taxes you.
Yes.
Again reduces your purchasing power.
Yeah.
There is no way to escape the fact that the rich are taking from the poor and had become rich because they had taken from the poor. That is it. It's a zero-sum game. And there is, in the eyes of capitalism, nothing wrong with it. Because capitalism tells us the narrative, or tells us a story, that once the rich get richer, they recycle their money.
Yeah.
They put it back in factories, which then employ you, which then make you a bit richer, which then allow you to buy the products of the factories, which makes them much richer, which they, etc., etc. So there is this virtuous cycle of water in nature. Like, they're in the clouds, but you get some rain, you know. So don't feel bad. But of course, it's untrue. Right. Utterly untrue. Because above a certain level of wealth, wealth becomes non-productive. Right. If you have $10 million, you can spend it. If I have $100 million, I can spend it. But what do you do if you have $100 billion, like Warren Buffett? There is no way on earth you can spend it, unless you buy a small country. No way on earth you can spend it. Consequently, the vast majority of the wealth of Warren Buffett and Stephen Jobs, late Stephen Jobs and Bill Gates, sits in banks or in stocks, buried, non-productively buried.
Can I just want to say something. I know it's obvious to you and to other people who are trained in economics, but it wasn't obvious to me until you said it last night. Once that money is out of the system, there is less money in the system.
Yes.
It's like a light bulb went on in my head. I went, oh, so they actually make the system poorer.
True. We call this process demonetization.
Right.
The system is demonetized. Money is taken out of the system. As income inequality increases, scarcity increases because a lot of this money is taken out of circulation.
Right.
In other words, poor you and poor me are fighting over less money.
Yes.
Why? Because Bill Gates took $100 billion out of the system, which could have been divided amongst us, could have been shared. Yeah. But it's nowhere there anymore. So we are fighting what's left on residuals. And the fight becomes more and more fierce. This has societal and cultural effects. Because the fight over the residual money in the system is much more fierce, we become less and less civil, less and less polite, more and more narcissistic, more and more psychopathic, less and less empathic, etc., because we have to survive. It's a fight for survival. Let's assume that the three of us are the economy, and there's $100 here on the table, and Marian fits the profile of a capitalist. He is ambitious, he is entrepreneurial, he is a maniac, he is a psychopath, which is not far from reality. And it is Marian who succeeds through his unique profile, unique capitalist profile. He succeeds to take $80 off the table. And now, if Marian tries his worst, he can spend 8 of these $80. Because with $8 you can buy everything. I mean, whole countries.
Yeah.
$72, he tries, but there's nothing to do with them. So he says, okay, what the hell, I'll put them in my pocket. Or I'll invest them in a stock exchange or something. Or I'll buy a apartment and leave it empty. Shockingly, 37% of all the stock of residential apartments is empty.
Globally?
Globally.
37%
of all residential buildings are empty because they are not for residential purposes. They were purchased as investments. So Marian will take the money, bury it, essentially bury it. Bury it in an apartment, or bury it in a stock, or bury it in the bank, or leave it in his pocket. Now you and I have to fight on what's left. What's left is $20. When there was $100 here, I would be willing to be nice to you. You would be willing to be nice to me.
Yes.
We can share.
Yeah.
But when there's 20, it's you or me, baby.
Yeah.
It's either you survive or I survive.
Yes.
I have to be a psychopath.
Yes.
So I'm pushed to be a psychopath. I'm pushed to be a narcissist. Narcissism, pathological narcissism, which lately had been transformed into a form of psychopathy. Pathological narcissism globally is simply an adaptive mechanism, an adaptation. Not a maladaptation, not a negative adaptation, a positive adaptation. To survive in today's world, you need to be a lot narcissistic and somewhat psychopathic.